That wasn't the first part.
Pericardium.
Pericardium's this big bulgy part. And then when you open it, normal cell parts are inside there.
Like a nucleus,
Right there.
Golgi apparatus. Yeah.
Wait a minute, you're out of order.
Cytoplasm.
Cytoplasm is this off-white. That's where everything's floating. Then the nucleus. And then
Smooth endoplasmic
this
reticulum.
blue one up here with no dots. And then the rough endoplasmic reticulum has the red dots all over them, all the rest.
Golgi body.
That's kind of this lumpy part right here.
Mitochondria.
They look like hot tamales.
Lysosome.
They look like lemon heads. That's what people tell me when they look at this.
And then the dendrites.
They're the big, thick stumps.
The synaptic end bulbs.
They're the little rubbery guys. That's how this one would end in these rubbery things too.
What rubbery?
See the rubbery?
Oh, there's
Rubbery?
Okay. I wanted to make sure because this looks rubbery to me too. So
No, that's hard as a rock.
Okay.
This is rubbery.
And the axon.
All the way through.
Axon hillock.
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 So when you put it together, it's like a little hill, but I typically flag it right there. So it's narrowing as it leaves the pericardium into the axon tapers.
What was that one called?
Axon hillock.
Mitochondria.
So now we've got mitochondria going down your axon, and you can see they were cut too, so you can see the inner membrane folded up.
Schwann cell.
I need parts.
Myelin sheath.
That's all this yellowish stuff even at the bottom.
Neurolemma.
That's this part. It's not really, but that's what we're going to call it because it is the outside over here on this guy.
Node of Ranvier.
Those are the narrow areas.
The nucleus of the Schwann cell.
The big guy right there, and there's one on the end too,
The nucleolus.
is that dark spot inside it. The one down there. Okay, and then this guy, remember real quick, we did all the parts, and that's where I asked the parts. I can do it again on the next test. But now the end of this looks like the end of that. You've got your axon in the middle, the myelin sheath around, and these are a different color, which is why this should not be neurolemma. That should be because it's a different color, it's a different part. So that's the neurolemma, and then of course you've got your nucleus. Then, remember what these were called?
And bulb.
I'm not doing the bulb, I'm doing these.
Axon hillock?
No.
Oh, wait.
Terminal end branch.
Oh,
Terminal end
branch.
branch.
Terminal end branch, synaptic end bulb. The synaptic end bulbs sit over the motor end plate that belongs to this muscle cell. This is all neuron, that's muscle cell. And they don't physically touch, remember, they just sit over.
So this is a nodes of Ranvier too, right?
Yep,
This little.
I didn't know. I don't know why we didn't ask it, but we didn't. Now, the next one up should be these guys. Since it's so close, I want to cover that. This is the new one I added.
For the white matter, the dorsal median.
Hang on, I gotta put it white matter. Look, it's white. Oh, it's every color except white.
The dorsal median sulcus.
It's this narrow little trench right there, little tiny guy, and this black line over here. It's number 10 on that
The
one.
ventral median fissure.
It's wide and wide enough. There we go, to put that in.
The gray matter.
It's gray.
The ventral gray horn.
And it makes an H, stylized H, so you have a right ventral gray horn and a left ventral gray horn. They're the legs. And then you have the arms. So you have a right dorsal gray horn and a left dorsal gray horn. So you got arms and legs on an H, and if you have an H, you have the crossbar. That's the gray commissure.
For this one is white. You said all colors except, which one's the white matter?
All of it, except that it's not white. This is white. That white matter's white. This one, the white matter's not white.
It's the colorful things?
It's all the stuff except the gray,
Ah, okay.
except the H.
Okay.
And on the test, we're gonna have to put right or left for the gray horns.
Yeah, I ain't trying to miss no right or left questions.
Yeah, no.
Right, no more of that.
No
And
more.
remember, it's facing exactly the way I am you guys. The right's on this side, left's on the other side.
Okay.
The,
The left, don't forget, you have two segments over here on the left on this guy and only one on the right. Sorry.
central canal.
So the central canal is this little hole inside that gray commissure, and you can see them drag it by it. And they're pointing at the little black spot over here, and you can see kind of the groove that leads into that for the hole.
The ventral root.
So the ventral roots are going to come out. So you've got a left, and you've got a right ventral root, and then this is all part of the ventral root too. That narrow part. Hang on. And on this side, your ventral root on the right is not color coded, it's just off white. And over here on the left, they're black and red.
The ventral roots.
Yeah. And then, was it dorsal? Is that what you said? So the dorsal roots come out again on the right, you've got one, and then over here you've got this, and the narrow areas are the dorsal roots. And over here, again, it's not color coded, just beige. But over here on the dorsal roots on the left, you've got red. I'm not colorblind. Green and yellow. Okay, I've done it too many times.
Dorsal root ganglion.
That's the bulge over here on the right. That's the bulge 1 on the right and 2 on the left. These bulges.
Since they're dorsal roots, it's because they're in the back, right? Dorsal.
And your guts are out here in the belly.
The spinal nerve.
The spinal nerve, that's where they're running together. So the roots come together and they're bound by the same connective tissue. The very end on the right, you can see part of it over here on the right, sorry, the left. And then 1 on the right and 2 on the left. So everything's running together. Same connective tissue.
The meninges.
This one has the meninges, this one doesn't.
The dura mater.
Dura mater,
Mater.
that's all the blue. Dura mater.
The arachnoid matter.
That mater, that's the, look, it's like webs. Looks like webs.
What was it called?
Arachnoid.
Arachnoid mater, spider-like.
The pia mater.
That's here. Remember, the top was white matter. Pia mater's on the side. And then these are extensions of the pia mater. That's a right denticulate ligament, and there's a left denticulate ligament, and together they keep the cord from slopping side to side.
The ventral spinal artery.
Right there, and the red guy coming up.
Then the right and left dorsal spinal
Hang on.
artery.
Now, they're going to be your right and your left. So the red coming up, we're ignoring the veins. So your right, your left, they're right there. And over here, remember, the left is going to be the tall one, and the right's that short one. I can just see the edge of it. And one of them, I think the left's, is the left numbered? Or is the right side numbered?
The right side.
Numbered. Okay, it's numbered. Okay, and that's it. But you can see this one even has veins, this one doesn't.
Are we gonna go over those models?
Yeah. Now we're going over him, and then this one. Eye, and this is the old eye. Okay, I already took this guy, fell apart. So that sits up there like that, and it should start with the lacrimal apparatus, does it?
Lacrimal gland.
So right there's the lacrimal gland, and then these, I want to grab them, so you can hear me catch them too. So you can realize what I'm touching. Those are the excretory lacrimal. So they collect the tears out of here, wash them over the surface of the eye, which I don't need the surface of the eye because it's going to be a part anyway.
Surface of eyeball.
Yeah, it's like that. And then they empty it, so they wash across the surface and go into this thing right here. And that's going to be the punctum lacrimale, the corner of your eye. It's actually just that little pale pink, but remember I used the clay, so I'm going to cover the whole corner. And then those black spots represent the actual holes. If you raise your eye, you can see that one. And then you collect the tears into these canals. So this one's on top, so what's it called? It's above.
Superior?
Superior?
Lacrimal canal.
No. And then what's this one called?
Inferior.
Lacrimal canal.
And they're easy. And then they collect, and there's a little hole right there. They collect in this lacrimal sac. And then they drain down the nasolacrimal gland below it into the back of your throat. Continuous, it never stops.
Gland or duct?
Duct. Lacrimal sac duct. Glands. So they bathe constantly. If you start crying, it's so too fast for them to collect, so they run down your face. That's why tears run down. But remember, we don't get eye infections very often because that antibiotic that's inside them is so potent. It destroys almost all of them. Unless a really bad one got in there.
And the eyelid palpebra.
Mm-hmm.
The superior tarsus.
Superior tarsus, right there. So what's this one?
Inferior tarsus.
So those are your eyelids. Okay. Where's my, there you are. For some reason. In my hand right here, I have 2 muscles. And now this one is not touching this lid. This one is. This one on the bottom is not. This one open. Remember, we closed the eye and I asked it on the test, the orbicularis oculi. So this one opens your eye, so we finally get to open it, and that's the
Levator palpebrae
levator,
superior.
so we say levator, palpebrae superior, like elevator, so it elevates your eyelid. And then the bottom one touches the eyeball. So it starts up here and runs all the way underneath. And that's this one here too. So it should be muscles of the eye movement.
Superior rectus muscle.
That's it. And all the fibers run this way. That's it right there. So if I tell you to hold your head still, look forward, then look up, that's the one that just made you look up, is the superior rectus. Look down, that's the inferior rectus, and it runs underneath. So it's under there, and then you can see the fibers run the same direction as this one up here, over here. That one there.
And the lateral rectus muscle.
How about the medial first? Medial's over there. And that's it right here. And then the lateral's over there. And that's it down here running from there.
The superior.
Hang on. So when I move my eye, my right eye, and I looked this way, I moved it medially, but my left eye went laterally. And if you look the opposite way, this one's moving medially and this one's moving laterally.
Right.
So those were kind of opposite each other as looking around. Then we can also roll our eyes. So you roll them up, that's going to be the superior oblique. So the fibers run at an angle coming away from these at a different angle. They run this way, this runs this way. It catches behind the trochlea, that little piece of bone. The trochlear nerve pulls it, and that's all it on top. Okay, so it rolls them up. And then you've got to complete the eye rolling, so you go underneath from the side here, and this whole piece under here is the inferior oblique. Now we should be on the eyeball.
The fibrous tunic.
Parts.
Yeah.
Parts.
Oh,
The
sclera.
parts of it.
Sorry.
The sclera is the white of your eye. So that's the sclera.
And the cornea.
That's the sclera. The cornea is right there. Cornea is right here. It's not glass, it's plastic. It's the front of your eye, it's that clear part. It's continuous with the sclera too.
The conjunctiva.
It's not on both, it's only on this one, so we'll pass it off totally.
So onto the vascular tunic.
So give me the
Choroid.
parts. The choroid is the dark brown to black, like it was on the cow eye. I know it's not that color here, but that's all. On this one, it is black right there. They cut the window so you can see at the edge, and it's really dark brown underneath there too.
The corner?
Choroid.
Ciliary body.
I got too many parts. There's the cilia. You can see the lines, the white lines, the lines going there. And over here, they're harder to see. Up close, you can see them easily, but you can hear me catch them. So they're there too.
The lens.
That's what they're going to grab. So they're grabbing the lens. Just take them down. So pass that around and look through it, because you guys are all upside down. You know that? And look, the guy in the black's over here. The guy in the blue's over there. And she's way over here, and he's way over there. Because it flips you backwards,
you're
too, upside down and
opposite.
backwards, yeah. And upside down and just on the right
So
side.
when you said people can't
Not too
process
close.
that in their
So-
brain,
A few, it's a handful that are born that way.
so how do they fix that at all?
They
They're
can't,
walking.
there's no way they can. They just learn to function with everything upside down.
So
That's
if
how
I-
the world is,
What
that's
the-
how they perceive it.
So if I'm seeing him as blue, I know to reach this way still? If I'm
Yeah,
not
they
trying
have
shake
to
his
learn
hand?
how to do it, and it takes a while, but that's why you can't drive. You know, especially the speeds on a freeway, there's no way, you can't even
Crazy.
drive into town.
Go crazy.
Riding a bike is almost impossible. Because your legs are off
Yeah.
the course too. There are a lot of things they cannot do.
Onto the iris.
The iris is the colored part of your eye, so ours are blue. You can see the blue part. And the pupil, of course, is the hole in it. Depression.
So the oris or serrata.
Serrata. So this one you can see the serrated edge. So the retina is all this colored part back here. And this should be the same color. This doesn't belong to this part. This part doesn't belong to this. So if you guys start opening the eyes, you might find the really dark kind of color like this newer, would fit that, so you can swap them. But this is the serrated edge, and this is the front part, the anterior part of your retina. And that's what that forms, is where the retina begins. It's right behind it. On this model, you don't have the serrated edge, but you have a ledge here, a little ledge, and that's it right there, because this is all retina here.
So what was that called?
Oris serrata. It's named because in reality it is serrated, even though this one doesn't show that.
Fovea centralis.
That's your central focus of vision, so it's this yellow spot back here.
That's what you're talking about in class, right?
Yeah, and it's this little yellow guy right there too. And there's actually like a little arrow there used to be pointing to that spot.
Your optic disc.
That's the white part right back there, and that's the blind spot. And I'm going to cover this one by putting my finger on
You put a blind spot on the test, would that be wrong?
it. Wrong.
So it's optic.
Optic disc.
Disc.
It's called.
D-I-S-C.
Yep, and then coming out of it is the optic nerve. So coming out of it's the optic nerve, and there's the rest of your optic nerve here. Is that a 16?
Where was it on this one?
All of this is the optic nerve.
No, the one before that, the optic disc.
Right there where my thumb is sitting. So like where the blood vessels.
The veins and
No, I just want retina back here.
Gotcha.
That's all I want.
The anterior chamber of the anterior.
Just anterior chamber.
Okay.
Sorry, anterior cavity, sorry.
Okay.
So the cavity is between the cornea and the lens, anterior cavity. Then the posterior cavity, that I cannot flag, but I can flag the vitreous humor. That's vitreous humor too.
The posterior is isn't it the lens to the
From here back to the retina.
retina?
But it's filled with vitreous humor typically.
Vitreous.
And I can't flag just the space. That's what I mean. Here I can actually bridge it because I have the two parts and I put the clay and then just put the pin so it's straight through there, you know, I'm
So if there's
flagging the empty
clay,
space.
then you're asking for
If
the
I'm
cavity.
flagging the empty space, yeah.
Okay.
So the flag will be straight up and down with the clay between. Otherwise the clay goes here or back here.
Okay.
If I want lens or if I want cornea.
So if it was right here, do you want posterior cavity or vitreous humor?
Vitreous humor,
Vitreous.
because I can't do the cavity. And then we gotta put the eye back together. This one, because you gotta do it really fast, because it'll just keep falling off. So you put this guy back here. And you try to line him up. And there's a little hole that this little prong's supposed to sit in, and I can't get it in there right. Because this may not actually belong to this model either. Could be one of the other ones. It may stay. And then that guy, you hook those pegs into those holes. And then you put it back. And you, whoops, get back in that hole. But you don't want to go in there either, so that's probably not your hole. This came up the other one, and that should be under there, but it's not going to fit. These at least stay that way, and then you can just match the holes up with the metal. And that's put it back together. This is the ventricle. And now it's facing just like I am. And these are open spaces in the brain that are full of fluid. It's a negative image. Okay? So this thing there's nothing there, that's a solid object if you have that in your brain. It's a solid space. Okay? Because remember, it's totally negative. And where my fingers are sitting, there's the brain sitting there. It's on everything else. Okay. So I'm going to be facing this way. And this is the right lateral ventricle, this whole piece. And now I'm facing this way, and that's the left lateral ventricle. Okay. And then this little bridge would be a hole in the actual brain. That's going to be, you guys have the list?
The right
Subject, the right interventricular foramen. And then the left is easier to see simply because it's not quite so straight up. It's at an angle more. And there's the left interventricular foramen right there. Okay, so just like a little hole in your brain.
The third ventricle.
Is where I've got my fingers covering it. So it's this thing kind of looks like a bird's head. And if the brain is under here, that's the hypothalamus right there. The brain.
It does look like a bird's head.
And then this narrow part right here is the cerebral aqueduct. And you'll see it on some of the brains. You'll see like a little canal sitting there where it's full of cerebral spinal fluid. And then this part back here, if I turn it, you can see, or lift it, you can see how all that clear, the gray. And that's going to be the fourth ventricle, and I'd flag it from underneath here. That's the median aperture. And then you can see that they're not exactly the same size, the right and the left lateral apertures where I'm pressing with my fingers. So this one's a little sharper and this one's a little more blunt. So that's the right and that's the left. And then that was the intermediate mass. It looks like the eye. It's not a hole. Remember, in reality, it's a solid space. On this model, it's a hole. And then all this pink stuff, you got a little pink there and a lot of pink underneath it. That's choroid plexus, that's capillary bed.
Tubular depth.
You have a number by it?
2.
That's that whole part.
Then the 3 is the tympanic duct. 4 is the vestibular membrane.
There.
6 is the basilar membrane.
Basilar, and that's what this guy's sitting on, so it's right here.
18 is the tectorial membrane.
So that's over top like a roof over it.
19 is the cochlear duct. And 25 is the cochlear nerve.
So it's way over here, and this part proper is your organ of corti. And you can see they talk about hair cells, they made them like hair, literally like hair is coming in. So this is resting on them, and as they're vibrating with all that fluid, then that sends the impulse so we hear what that pitch is and everything else. But your organ of corti is right there and includes those hairs. So if I put the clay right in the center, away from those, but right there, that's organ of corti. So you can see the fibers come from the hair cells, collect into the nerve, and then it runs to the brain. So I made very few parts because there's no sense in learning everything else that we never talked about either.